What is going on, Guardians? Ember here with another one for you. Today I have a fantastically fun Strand build for PvP featuring the new Immortal SMG from Trials of Osiris. This primary is one of the strongest weapons I've had a chance to use in the Crucible in quite a while. Before we get too far into it, let's head down below this video, absolutely obliterate that like and subscribe button. Go ahead and down into the comments section below and let me know if this is the kind of content you like to see. Don't forget to stick around at the end of the video for an original meme. And with that, let's get to it. Alright, so like I said, we're going over a very fun Strand PvP build, and we're going to be using our Arcane Needle and the Necrotic Grip Warlock exotic gauntlets here. Let's talk about the interactions we have in between them and go over all of our fragments, abilities, and aspects. So I'm just running a pretty classic Healing Rift, Burst Glide, Arcane Needle, the Threadling Grenade. We'll get into what we're using that for in a minute. We have the Weaver's Call and the Mind Spun Invocation aspects. Those are the only two we have access to at the moment. The fragments I'm running Thread of Propagation, Generation, Evolution, and Warding. Though, I might trade Warding for Continuity at some point. I'll get into that again, why, in just a little bit. However, let's talk about our weapons. I did get a very nice roll on the Immortal SMG. This is brand new to Trials. I pretty much got 4 out of 5. I'll call it 4.5 out of 5, aside from it not being adept. But I did get corkscrew rifling, so I got a little bit of range and stuff on that. Though most people are looking more for hammer forged or extended barrel. I'm using the Epicurean fusion rifle with rangefinder specifically. I'll be crafting this fusion rifle here within the next couple of weeks, and I'll be putting out a video on that, so keep your eye out for that. It's actually a monster with the right perks on it. And then, like I said, the Necrotic Grips. If you are not familiar with the Necrotic Grips, essentially what it does is it adds poison tick damage to your melee abilities. Now, I know the ranged melee abilities, it does work for those as well, which is why we're using Arcane Needle, and it gives us 3 charges for that, you know, so we can really stock up on those and spread that poison around. But with our Arcane Needle, we're also going to be causing enemies to become unraveled, which is going to help us to damage and spread the poison to enemies around them. Let's go over the mods here that I have on my build. I'm not going to read them all off. I'll just leave it up there for anyone who is interested. And without further ado, let's get into the gameplay. Alright, so there really is a lot to unpack here in this build, but once you get the hang of it, it's quite rewarding. There's a good level of just general fun gameplay mechanics you have here, and quite a high skill ceiling if you can get to know the build to that kind of a level. Let's go ahead and talk about our fragments. So first, I'm using Thread of Propagation. These are powered melee final blows, grant Strand weapons unraveling rounds. And these are obviously perfect to pair with our Immortal SMG. We're going to be able to deal damage to enemies in large groups if we have to deal with them in such a way, especially since an SMG is already geared more towards a close quarters play style. That'll really help us out in the long run when we can get them grouped together like that. Next up is Thread of Generation. Dealing damage generates grenade energy. This is pretty simple and straightforward. It's not a huge amount of grenade energy that it generates, but it always helps, especially when we're trying to consume our grenades to get all those Threadlings so we can have them go and chase all our enemies around corners. That's always a lot of fun. And speaking of Threadlings, next fragment we have up here is the Thread of Evolution. Threadlings travel farther and deal increased damage. Since we are trying to spam our Threadlings as much as possible here in this build, we want them to be able to travel further and deal more damage. That is a given. For the final fragment slot, this is where you can really choose between two. I personally have Thread of Warding on, picking up Orbs, grants Woven Mail. It does have a -10 resilience stat, and this is where I might end up changing my build at some point. I'm not really sure whether it's worth it to lose out on 10 resilience passively. But what I would swap it for is the Thread of Continuity, Suspend, Unravel, Sever, All those effects last longer, and it gives you plus 10 strength overall. And since we're spamming our Arcane Needles as much as possible again, that is always helpful to have a little bit more strength. Speaking of the Arcane Needle, what a great ability to pair with Necrotic Grip, since we do get 3 different charges on there. We're able to spread poison around like crazy. It's also going to unravel our targets. It's going to help us with our multi-kills, like I was saying earlier. When we're unraveling our targets, each of the little pin missiles that fly off of the targets while we're hitting them with more damage is going to spread that poison debuff around to the other enemies that are near them. So keep an eye out for groups of 2 or more enemies where you can hit one with an Arcane Needle and easily spread those debuffs around. Share the wealth. The Arcane Needle is really where I'm also talking about the skill ceiling. If you can utilize this ability to its fullest potential, you are able to pull off some absolutely insane plays on enemies that may have otherwise ended up getting the upper hand on you. This build really has a whole lot of ways to support our Immortal SMG. Using this weapon has been some of the most fun that I've had in the Crucible in a very long time. The Immortal has an insane TTK with the target lock and rangefinder roll at 0.67. It is super forgiving to use, and I do suspect that the target lock perk on the Immortal will probably get nerfed at some point soon, so keep an eye out for a kill clip roll with the rangefinder perk on there. Consuming your Threadling grenade is a fantastic way to support the Immortal's DPS as well. You can kind of shoot out a couple of shots at an enemy and the Threadlings will go chase them down. Oftentimes I will get an afterlife kill with these, which is always fun to watch, and helps any time you spent in the respawn screen sting just a little bit less. If anyone has some fun clips of Threadling or Arcane Needle kills, go ahead and send them on my Twitter. Go ahead and at me with that. I'd love to see them. They're a lot of fun. And with that, that's going to be all for me for now. Let's go ahead and toss that meme up on the screen. Have you been enjoying Strand in PvP? I have. This was pretty much my first outing with it, but I've been enjoying myself thoroughly. Let me know how you've been enjoying the Immortal SMG down in the comment section below. Keep an eye out in the next couple of weeks for my Epicurean crafted PvP roll. And until next time, be without form, swift as lightning.